Hey there, I am Anders. I'm one of the three co-founders at SlideHub, and today I'll take you through our product update for March 2026. We have four different things to present this month. One, we have the introduction of a history feature for our AI text-to-slide, including a number of improvements for that feature. Then we have the introduction of rich text placeholders and drop-down placeholders for our automation suite. Then we're introducing a way to integrate SlideHub into AI tools using what's called an MCP server. And then we are also introducing the first publicly facing API functionality where we can integrate other applications into SlideHub. All right, first thing, the text to slide history and improvements. For those of you who haven't seen the text to slide feature before, you'll find it in the SlideHub task pane in SlideHub for PowerPoint. In this case, I am on this fake company called Admiro Logistics, and I'll just demonstrate the feature really quickly. You can use it. You can either use like a fully detailed text input where you fully describe everything that needs to be in the slide, or you can use a more of a prompt-like approach where the system will then use the information in the library or a web search to kind of build the slides into your brand template. Let's use the prompt-based approach. I'll do something like create a slide about our services in 4 bullet points. Cool. The first thing the system does is that it checks for whether we already have slides on this topic. As you can see, there's actually quite a few, but for the purpose of this, I will generate new slides instead. I'll use the internal library, and I want the slide layout to kind of match, or the content to match whatever layout I choose. So there we go. It just prepares the content based on what it can find in the system, and then it finds potential layouts. So I'll pick a few different ones, like this, and maybe this one, and maybe something with a picture too. Right, then it'll start generating. So the way it works is that it can actually generate these multiple slides at the same time. I can either sit and look at them being developed, or I can actually run them in the background, and I can then do my stuff while the slide's being generated. I can also come back and look at the progress as the slide final, as they get automatically inserted to your presentation in whatever position you are in. So see now 2 or 3 comes in. You're going to look at them, say, okay, here's the services, they had an image, you can see the reference points that has been used here. Here's another take. It introduced my beautiful gradient icons in here. And here's another one. The last one is still being wrapped up. And then, I can of course decide which one I want to use, or, proceed as I want to see fit. So yes, the last one coming in a second. Here with some more different images on it. Cool, and you can see it adjusted the amount of text to the layer that I chose in this given case. All right, so I can then say, oh, this was actually pretty good. Good job. Submit rating. Okay, cool. So all this is not that new if you've been using SlideHub over the last couple of months. What's new is that you now have this history feature inside of SlideHub. So you can go in and see the thing that I just created in here, and you can say, hey, I actually want to insert my things again. If you want to see, you can also reuse the prompt, or you can go in and say, hey, I want to look at the more detailed view. You can see the whole thing. What you can also see is actually what are the slides that were suggested as alternatives in here as well. You can see the same thing here. If you like, you can also reuse the prompt from here, or we can generate it in here. For those of you with manager access, you might wonder who can see what, and that's something you can change in the AI settings in here. In the settings, in the bottom here, you can determine whether the statistics should be available publicly. What that basically means is that managers in the account can go into the statistics page here, and they can see the generated slides. If they're turned on to public, this thing gets actually shown. If it's not shown as public, then only the person who creates the slides can see it. In terms of the history, you can also decide how long things are stored for. So in this case, the default is like 1 year, but you can also completely turn off the history if you want everything to be deleted within 10 minutes of being completed. So that's the AI history. The next thing I wanted to go through is the rich text placeholders and drop-down placeholders and how they can be used for customizing slides in a way where end users, have more options for how they fill out the slides using this placeholder concept. So for this purpose, I'll start out with something really, really basic. This simple slide here. And I'll convert it into a project plan template. So project. So I want to make this into placeholders. So the first thing I'll do is that I will use the new rich text placeholders here. So I'll do a new placeholder called situation project. To get the formatting right, I'll just do this little trick here. And then I'll do something here, same thing, but I'll just say application for the project. Here I'll say project goal. And here I'll do something called slide up lead. Cool. So for these two things, I want rich text where people can write out like bullet points about the situation communication. For the goal, I want just a simple text box, and for the lead, I want a drop down option to use these new different layout things. Also, I want to disconnect the slide because it's a very different slide now. Okay, cool. So I'll add the slide up. It'll be checked for percentage placeholders. You can say, okay, cool. It has some new ones here. And then I'll use this one to use the new rich text placeholders. So I'll go in, rich text, and then this will say write at least 3 bullets about the complications. And then I'll do something similar here. I'll also make it rich text. Write 3 bullets or more about situation. And I have my lead here. I say this is I'll use the new drop down options. So okay, I click drop down and say the lead can be, let's say, honest, it's me, or it's from other co-founders. Cool. And I have my 3 new placeholders. Then I also have some existing project placeholders in the form of the company in the project goal. I'll link this up. Here I'll just call it example for video for now. Let's put it in that category. Good. And see the slide is being added to the library. It's being labeled in the background. If I go in here, you can see the slide is actually already cool. All right, now I can then, as an end user, use the slide. So I'll be prompted for the different placeholders. The company name, let's call that Cool Corp AS. And then I'll do the complication. You can see that the 3 bullets are here. The description I'll put in with the 3 bullets. And then, okay, let's do something like, okay, complication 1 is lack of resources, lack of time, lack of focus, and knowledge. And there are lots to work on here. Project goal is to grow business by 20% in 2 years. The situation is we have hired to do this. We are busy. It will be fun. Let's go. Lead will be less. So then you set in the slide, put in the things we provided, rich text items, goals come in, and as it come in. So in this way, you can build a fairly simple project form, but you can also use it for a million different things, sort of based on your, you know, own ideas and work and so forth. But you sort of ensure that everything stays, you know, on brand and in place, and you kind of help the users do things right. Cool. I hope you find this helpful. Next, I will go through the MCP server integrations and how you can integrate SlideHub directly into tools such as Claude or ChatGPT. In this video, I'll take you through our MCP functionality. In this case, I am a manager on the account called Acme Logistics, which is our made up company account for testing purposes. When I go to the admin side, you'll see that I have now an API and MCP functionality over here. It includes a bit of an introduction. For those who are not familiar with MCPs, the idea with the MCP is that it gives various AI tools the ability to use certain functionality from SlideHub directly from those AI tools, as I'll show you in this video. In this overview, you can see that the MCP connector is enabled on the account. I can though further go in and I can specify who from the organization should use it. So I can limit it completely, or I can make it only for administrators. I also have a log to see who uses what in the system. Okay, in terms of the experience, I'll show you the Claude experience and the ChatGPT. So the idea is that in Claude, you have a section over here called connectors. Connectors is the Claude terminology for MCP server integrations. In here, you'll soon be able to find SlideHub in the store. Until then, what you can do is you can add it as a separate connector. Calling it SlideHub, and you put it in this URL here. MCP SlideHub. You click add. I have already done this. I have it sitting here. I have also connected it already. If I want to connect to it again, just to show, the idea is that you click the connection here, you click connect, and then what you'll see is that it basically takes me over to SlideHub, and it uses my SlideHub credential login to connect with the Claude account. And then you can see now it sits in here. To make things a bit more efficient, I'll just allow all the tools to be used here, so it doesn't ask me throughout the process. That's of course for you to decide. Okay. All right. Inside Claude, we have basically built or enabled a number of functionality from SlideHub that can be called via Claude. So an example could be the ability to find slides. So find slides about our services. So SlideHub. You don't necessarily need to write using SlideHub. It just increases the odds that it understands what that's what you want. So in this case, I am working with this Acme Logistic company, and I have different stuff about services. So when you come back here, you can see it searched the library and it provided some results here. I can then either click view, which take me to the SlideHub interface. I can also download the slides directly here, and I get the slide here. So it's a very efficient way to sort of integrate the search experience from SlideHub directly into Claude. In addition to the ability to find slides, you can also say something like combined the most important 3 slides above into a single presentation. So you can basically take those slides and combine them for you, so you don't have to go to SlideHub and find them and reselect them and so on. Like I said, use this combine tool to then go in and do that. And you can see now it has the combined presentation, and I can download it again and so forth. Okay. In ChatGPT, things works a little bit different than Claude. In order to use the tool, you need to click more here, and then you need to find the tool on your list. You can then write, in addition to doing the things we showed before, you can also generate slides directly. So you could do something like generate a slide using SlideUp about the recent history of PowerPoint. The tool will then generate the slide and make it available for download through the application. It supports you doing, it automatically uses the same settings as you have on the SlideUp account in terms of using the brain and the template and everything like that. If you're interested, you can look at the tool call here to see exactly what does it actually do behind the scenes and gives you like a idea about how it communicates with the SlideUp application in the background. You can see here, okay, you can go on here and see the much more details about it's getting the status of the process and so forth. And let's see, yeah, and if you're not going to download the slide or watch the preview if you want. So that's basically the idea. See. Beautiful. Cool. That's the thing. If you have any questions about the MCP setup and so forth, feel free to reach out at any point. Also, we have submitted SlideUp for both ChatGPT and the Claude connector store, so this should soon become available for a quick installation. Otherwise, you can install it as I showed previously. Thanks a lot for your time. Then, last but not least, I'll go through the introduction to our API integrations and how you can integrate SlideUp into a lot of other tools you might have out there. This is still a beta feature, but it's something that we plan to continue building out, and would love to be in dialogue with some of you related how we can make this even more helpful. In this video, I'll take you through the SlideUp API, how to enable it, and how to get the sort of initial tests going with it. All right, so I am in this case on Acme Logistics, which is a fake testing account. I am in the manager view, and I went to the API/MCP section here. In this view, I have an overview of both the MCP and the API connectors access on the account. You can see in this case I have access to both items have been enabled on my account by the SlideUp customer success team. By default, the API connector is an enterprise feature. If you don't have access to it and want to use it, reach out to your SlideUp account manager or customer success member and discuss whether that might be an option. Since I have access to the API, I'll find a section down here called API settings. So in this case, it is enabled on my account as something I can use, but it's actually not enabled by me as the account manager. So I'll do that now, and I can then decide who should use it. So for this purpose, let's just say hello, everybody can. You can see first time I save this, I get the API key and the API secret. This is very important that you copy these over once you see them, because you're not going to see them again. So I'm going to copy it into the key into my post main application here. Same with the secret. Okay. Basically, the way the SlideUp API works is that it imitates a given user. So I will get the personal credential of my user here and use those to access the API. So I'll go to my profile, API keys. You can see there's nothing in here yet, so I'll generate API keys. Does the same thing. I'll copy the API keys, I'll paste it in under the user key information here. I'll click save. So now I actually have the things I need from the SlideUp platform. For the documentation of the API, I can go here to this particular URL, ppt.slideupio -API-docs, and in here you'll see an introduction to the concept. You'll have a overview of both the MCP server and the authentication for that, the REST API, and so forth. You can see all the endpoints that we currently have listed here. This list is expected to grow as we add more API facing functionality. If you have a specific API endpoint that you need, don't hesitate to reach out. We can add them fairly quickly. So just to kind of illustrate the basics of it, so I need to use the endpoint here. You can see that's the endpoint is also included API here. So, but I'll just show this in this Postman tool for validating APIs. So I'm basically taking the URL here, this one, put in the validate. It's a get call. I have the company key, the secret, and the user. And then click send. And then I get a confirmation back saying success, you have access, and it tells me who this user are, what company ID, what my user ID, and so forth. If our post has something that's incorrect here, I'll get an access denied. Doing this. So this is the basic concept of interacting with the API. We have a documentation of each of the different endpoints. So if I, for example, want to do a text search here, I want to get some information out of the library using the AI text search, I can do another call here. So just say this one. I think for speed, we can just clone this one, duplicate, we'll call this one AI search. Okay, so we'll do the search library. We'll have the same headers here. This post call, we'll make it a post call. In the body, we want to do the form, then we'll pass in text saying something like, tell me about our services. Context key. Why don't we just say, yeah, it's not really required. This one takes a bit longer time, but you can see I then get a nicely formatted HTML answer back here. I can use for whatever I want to use on my other side. You also get a list of all the different assets that's used for informing this as part of the response. And then, which you can pull it into any other tool you might have for your needs. So that's the basic concept of it. For slide generation purposes, you have a separate section in here that tells you about those steps. One of the key things is that when you create the first slide generation here, it responds back with a batch ID here that you can then use to get the status with. So you might need to be polling it if you, since the slide generation can take a bit of time, you might need to be hitting the API a few times before you get the download URL you can use to download your final slides. That's the API. As it says here, we are doing changes to the API at the moment on an ongoing basis. If you're planning on building production systems towards this setup, reach out to us directly. We'll make sure that we communicate any potential breaking changes before we go live, so you can stay up to date on these things. All right, thanks a lot for watching. All right, that was all for today. I hope you find these new things helpful. We have a lot more things coming in the coming months, so I look forward to seeing some of you next time in these updates and wishing you a great month.